Well, Darren Roos is here tonight. He is one of the piano technicians at Baylor. And how many pianos do you care for over there? It's 170 pianos. I don't know why that seems like a lot. That's a lot of pianos. We have like 152 here, but that's it. So, and he's coming tonight, and I'm really excited about this. This is a great timing because we, as you know, we just had our sanctuary piano refurbished in the spring and dedicated a few weeks ago, and so I think the season is perfect for his talk tonight. So Darren's also, in addition to he's has a music degree from Southwest Baptist in Missouri, and did you get your degree in piano, or did you just figure this out? This is amazing. Okay, so if you...
I'm a trombone player.
Oh, a trombone player. Okay. We learned that. Will you come and lead us tonight?
Thank you all so much for having me today. With having 152 pianos of your own around here, I can tell that you must love music. And I think that everybody loves music to some extent. I don't know that there'd be anybody that doesn't love music. Now, maybe everybody doesn't like all kinds of music, but everybody loves music. Now, I have a dog that does not like music for whatever reason. So in our house, if someone starts playing on the piano or playing a guitar, that dog just wants to leave the room or go outside. And I don't know if that's saying something about the dog or something about our playing. But either way, I think most people, almost maybe all people, like music. It connects with us in a real interesting way that I think is hard for us to even fathom. And I think, in some sense, it connects us to things beyond our understanding about how the whole world is ordered, how God has put the world together in order and balance, whether it's down to chemistry or to the cosmos. And so we put music in all kinds of things in our lives, whether it's worship services, whether it's at a funeral or a wedding, or, we put it all over the place, and it would be weird not to have it. And I've been to a couple weddings recently, and if you were to go to a wedding with no music, that would just be really weird. So we need music, and the Bible has music throughout it, of course the Psalms and other places. But music is a beautiful thing. But music has a bit of a secret, kind of a hidden problem. Now I say it's a secret, it's not exactly a secret. It's something that's been known for thousands of years. But it is this mystery that very few people even know about, and even fewer understand. And this mystery, which is foundational to the very physical function of music, I believe also offers us some profound insight for human life and relationships. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. The problem, this mystery that there's a problem in music, and how we deal with it, and what it does to apply to our lives. So I'm going to start by introducing the problem with a story. So when I was first starting as a piano technician in my young 20s, I was working at a piano store in St. Louis, Missouri. And they would sell pianos, and then I'd go out and tune the pianos for the customers after they've bought them. And so there was this one lady who had bought a piano. She was a musician. They sent me out to go tune her piano. I tuned it, went great. I went back to work. Sometime later, she called the store and she wanted to talk to me. So I was nervous. And I got on the phone and she said, ever since you tuned the piano, I've noticed that all of these thirds, which is a certain interval that you play on the piano, all these thirds have this pulsing beat in them. And she said, I want you to come back out and retune my piano to get rid of all that. And I said something like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Nobody can do that. That's how it is. There's nothing I can do about that. And I'm not sure that I convinced her that that helped her too much, but I probably handed the phone off, off to some other person at the store and they tried to keep the peace with the customer. But it's true, there's this thing that's not right, and this is where she stumbled across this problem. So that's what we're going to talk about, the problem that's in the heart of music. How do you tell a musician like her that music itself is fundamentally flawed? So what's going on? Let me try to explain it with an illustration. I will need a volunteer. Anybody?
Aaron's a musician.
Of some renown, too.
So, Aaron, how are you at jump rope?
Ooh.
Has it been a while?
Yeah.
Okay, well, good, because we're not actually going to jump rope.
Oh.
I need you to stand back a little farther. That's good. Okay. So what I need you to do instead of swinging the rope, I need you to do the opposite of that. I need you to hold it very still and steady, like you're a Chevy truck commercial from the 90s. I need you to be like a rock. Okay? So on any stringed instrument, but even like on a piano, when you have piano wire strung across the instrument, the wire will vibrate. We'll do something like this. Of course, you don't see it like this, as it's highly exaggerated. But this is the vibration that happens when a wire is played.
Is it really a circle? Like
It's probably more up and down,
okay.
but although it can go in different directions. But yeah, so it moves around like this, and how fast it's moving is called its frequency. It's how fast that cycle is. But it doesn't just move like that. It moves in different ways. How many arcs do you see now?
Two.
Two. Okay. What about now?
Three.
See three.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can go.
Have you been in the circus? That
There's four. Okay.
Go for five.
You think I should go for five? Woo!
Tough crowd, please.
Is that?
was really cool.
Wow. Thank you very much. So when
Good job,
good job.
So good.
When a string is vibrating, believe it or not, all of those different vibrations are happening at the same time. And that might be hard to understand. It seems like that wouldn't happen. But it does happen. Why does that happen? Well, some people would say that that's just the way it's wired.
Well, it's physics.
But it is physics, yes. So these different vibrations that happen in a string, these are what we call harmonics. And so the sound you hear, when you hear a note played, you think you're hearing this. But there's actually a lot more going on in the sound that makes the sound a lot more complex. And we number these harmonics based on how many segments are happening at the time. So to give an example, I had a friend of mine who is a very smart guy, a great musician. He's in med school right now. He asked me one time, how is it that if a trumpet plays a C, and a violin plays a C, a piano plays a C, or I sing a C, they're all playing the same note. Why do they sound different if they're all playing the same thing? What's happening is that, yes, they're all playing the same note, but there are different things happening up in the harmonics where some are more emphasized, some are suppressed. They all may be there, but they have a different shape to them. They have what I would describe as a unique sound signature. So I just say this to let you know that there's more going on in the sound that you hear than you realize. And so when the parts, the different harmonics, when the parts of one note, when you're playing two notes together, the parts of one note interact with the parts of the other, and where and how they align defines their relationship. And And so in music, when you have different relationships between notes, we call those an interval. So if I have this keyboard here, and I play this note, doesn't matter what the note is, I'm just going to put it up here. This would be, the fundamental frequency is 1, but there are all these other harmonics going on in the sound. All of this is going on in the sound of that one note, but those different frequencies correspond to other notes higher up on the keyboard. And if I lift that up and add in another note, and say I stop it right there, you can see it also has its set of frequencies, and you can see that they align in certain places. You see that they align here, there, and there in this particular case. And you can see that there is the relationship between the different harmonics is one is double the other in each of these cases. And when you have a relationship where one note is double the other, we call that an octave. It doesn't really matter what the name is, but that's what we call it. It's an octave. That's one relationship. I'm just going to introduce you to a couple relationships and then show you something interesting about them. Another relationship here, if I pull this one over, those harmonics line up differently. Can you see where they align? Anywhere? Somebody said it. Where? The 4 and the 5 here. They're lined up right here. That 5 to 4 relationship is what defines this interval, which we call a major third. Why do we call it a major third? Because it's higher than a captain, lower than a colonel. You don't need to worry about why we call it that for this exercise. So we played with the jump rope. Now we're going to play with blocks. So these blocks are going to represent certain frequencies. We talked about frequency. This block right here, you're going to think of this like a bar graph. So where the table is 0, that's 0 frequency, nothing's moving. And the higher it gets, the faster the frequency, the higher frequency. So you can imagine this as whatever you want, because it's all just relational. And we can imagine it as, well, let me first say, so you've heard maybe of A440. That's to say that that A vibrates at 440 cycles per second. That's how fast it's vibrating. But this can be whatever. For simplicity, we can say it's 100. But we don't need to hold on to that note. I'm just trying to help you understand that this is like a bar graph, and that represents how fast it is. So the higher it gets, the faster it is. Okay? So because we mentioned that an octave is a doubling of the frequency, if I take another block that's the same size, if I were to raise this up, double its size, that gets me up an octave. Are you with me? Okay, so this block here will be our octave. See how it matches right there? We're going to move that aside. Let me show you something here. We're going to pull in this keyboard, and we're going to simplify it a little bit. I would guess that most of you could a lot of you could point out where a C is on a piano, but I'm going to mark it here. There's a C. And I'm going to mark that octave. The reason that octave is, because of the 2-to-1 relationship of an octave, it's such a close, tight relationship that it sounds essentially the same to us. So we give it the same note name. We call it both a C in this case, or it could be whatever. But we give them the same name because they sound so much the same. Just one sounds higher and one sounds lower. So that's the octave. But within the octave, we talked about a major third. And so this would be a major third. But if you stack major thirds in sequence, there's a second major third, and the third major third, and you see that they land right at the octave. If you go one major third, jump another major third, jump another major third, they land right at that octave. You get back to that C. So that's what I'm doing here. I created this. We can say this is the C an octave higher with a higher frequency. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go up by those major thirds. Now, I mentioned before what the ratio of a major third is. Does anybody remember? 4 and 5. So it's a 5 to 4 relationship. It's a 5/4. So what we're going to do, I'm going to use these blocks. I'm going to split this height in quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now it's the same. I'm going to add one more quarter. So it's 5 quarters. And so going from here to here would be jumping up the interval of one major third, that first major third over there. Any questions? Okay. So now we're going to go up the next major third. So if I split this height into 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters, and add one more quarter, then I've gone up the next major third to its frequency. Now we'll do it one more time. If we split this height into 4 quarters, 3, 4, and add one more quarter, that gets us to where? Gets us to the octave. But not to the octave.
Oh no!
Oh no! That's a problem. It's annoying. It's very frustrating, and I have to deal with this every day. But this, it just doesn't work. It's actually quite a bit off, and this happens all throughout the keyboard. It's a mathematical impossibility. And in case you wonder if maybe there's something wrong with these blocks, or I did some sort of sleight of hand, we're going to do some really simple math so you can see it for yourself. And if you want, you can pull out your phone and use your calculator and you can play along. So we're going to give the C a value of 100, not because it is 100, because it's not, but it doesn't matter, because this is all just relational. It's a nice, easy number for us to work with. So if we're going from the 100 for that C, and it's a relationship of doubling, so what would the C above it be? 200. Okay. If we start up here with the C at 100 again, and we go up by major thirds, and it's a relationship of 5 quarters, and if you have 4 quarters to $1, if you have 5 quarters, you have $1.25. So 100 times 1.25 gets you to 125. Now 125 times 1.25 is a little trickier. Does anybody have their calculator going?
We trust
I can, okay, if you trust me, I'll just give it to you. It's 156 and a quarter. Now 156 and a quarter, going up the final major third, you would hope would get you to 200, but 156 and a quarter times 1.25 gets you to 195 and a little bit. Witchcraft. Yes.
It means the 5 quarters isn't exact,
It is exactly 5.
but it's not exact. Because the math lines up,
Anyway, so this is a mathematical impossibility that's at the fundamental levels of what music is. These intervals that we'd like to imagine would line up all nice and neatly, they don't. And there are many, many more intervals that do the same kind of thing. They don't line up like we would like to imagine they would. Do you want to hear it? Okay. You're going to hear it whether you want to or not. So I'm going to start with this C. And the octave above it sounds like this. This is how they sound together. Now if I go up a major third, oh, one thing I need to show you really quick. when two vibrations, two frequencies are getting close to each other, they have an interesting effect. And I created this visual to represent what happens audibly, because it's hard for people to catch on audibly. But this is how the visual works. If you have these concentric circles and this other set, they act like two different vibrations coming close together. And as they get closer, so they have this distortion that happens. And as they get closer together, the distortion starts to go away until eventually, when they're in perfect alignment, it all goes completely away. So you can see if I go too far, it starts to come back. I go back. Is it there yet? Is it there yet? There. Okay. That's what's happening in the sound you're hearing as well. So see if you can maybe pick up on it. So this is a major third, the first major third up there. I'm going to make it worse before I make it better. Just try to make it a little more obvious. So I've just made that major third nice and pure. I don't know if you heard that. I'm going to do a little more. That's a pure major third. Now if I start here to go up to the next major third, it's already starting out a lot worse. So I've made that one nice and pure. If we go from this one up to, where's it going to get to? The C, the octave. Way off now. Oh boy. Okay. We've gone all the way up there. So if I start back here at the C, that's the first major third, nice and clean. That's the second major third, nice and clean. Nice and clean. So you want to hear what the octave sounds like? One more time.
You're hurting us.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. And you wouldn't think that that should happen in music. You might imagine that things should line up better than that, but they don't. And this, when people find out about this, sometimes it really frustrates them. Musicians find out about this at some point. A lot of musicians may not know about this, but when they find out about it, it really frustrates them because they think that things should work out cleaner than that. I think musicians, maybe more than average, are perfectionistic, and so it frustrates them. And because it actually can't fit. Something has to give. It can't all be perfect. And as I mentioned, this happens throughout all of the relationships on a piano. It's an impossible puzzle. And we think maybe the problem is with how the world works. But maybe the problem isn't with how the world works. Maybe the problem is how we are looking at it. Maybe God knew what he was doing, we just don't understand it. And maybe, as I told that lady whose piano, she didn't like what was going on with it, maybe music itself isn't fundamentally flawed. Maybe we just perceive it as that way. So as a piano tuner, what do we do about it? And then what can that teach us about maybe some lessons on how to apply it to our lives? So the solution is actually quite interesting. I think most piano tuners maybe don't even realize that they're doing this. But the way that this gets solved is that you recognize that of all of these different types of interval relationships, some of these interval relationships are more important and more closely related, and some are less important and less closely related, and some are even less important and less closely related. And so what you do is you make the most important relationships the most clean, and the secondary relationships get a little expanded, the next relationship's a little more, so that what you end up with is a rightly ordered and balanced relationships. Because there's a prioritization. Because of the way the relationships are, they have, some are more important and some are less important. And when we treat them that way, things actually work out quite nicely. Maybe not perfect, but quite nicely. So this is where the skill is, not trying to make everything perfect, because that's not possible. But it's in knowing how to balance this and life so that more priority is given to what is more important, and less priority is given to what is less important. And the results can be very beautiful. So perfection, as we think of it, is not possible. It's like chasing free energy or a perpetual motion machine. That's a very appealing thing for people sometimes, this idea of something like that, but it can't actually work. So we have to approach things differently. So how do we apply this to our lives? I'm going to apply it in 3 ways. That we would have rightly ordered relationships, rightly ordered values, and rightly ordered allegiances. So life is full of relationships, right? But some relationships are more important than other relationships. If you're married, your relationship with your spouse is really important, and it has to come above other relationships. If you're married and your relationship with a coworker becomes as close as your relationship with your wife or spouse, that's going to be a big problem. A very big problem. Also, your kids. Obviously, your kids are very important. Your kids are very important, but they're more important than other people's kids to you, and that's fine. But here's something I think that a lot of married couples get into trouble on, and that is that sometimes we're taught that the kids come first in your family. And it sounds good, but that actually starts to cause some problems when the marriage itself gets neglected. Because the marriage is the foundation relationship which your kids are in. And if you neglect, if you get them upside down and put the kids too much prioritized to the neglect of the marriage, then things start to fall apart. And I've seen this many times in my life with people I've known. Also, your relationship with your wife and your kids is important, but it's not as important as your relationship with God. So God, in the way He ordered things in creation, there's sort of a pattern laid out of relationships. The first relationship is the individual with God, when Adam was created. There's a relationship of the individual with God. And then God made the spouse, and then there's the marriage relationship. And then came kids, and there's the kid relationship. And then it goes on to the community at large. And all of these relationships could be quite important. Your relationship with your kids is very important. Don't take me as saying that you should neglect your kids. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm just saying that we need to have it ordered in our mind and our hearts so that these things are balanced out appropriately according to their priority of relationship. And this creates a balance and a harmony that allows things to work. also to apply to relationships is disagreement. There's a lot of things to disagree about, and people can be pretty disagreeable at times. But we don't have to be in full agreement on everything all the time. There are important things that we should strive to be in agreement about, but there are lesser important things that we can have room for disagreement, room for a little bit of dissonance. Just like those thirds have those beats in them, that's okay. It's okay to have disagreements on some things and to have that grace with people. So that's rightly ordered relationships. Now I'm going to talk about rightly ordered values. Some values are more important than others. It's not good to obsess over things that don't matter that much to the neglect of things that really do matter. And so I think here, when Jesus was getting on to the Pharisees about this, where he said that they were obsessing about tithing about their herbs, tithing their herbs, but they were neglecting the weightier matters of the law, such as justice, mercy, and faithfulness. That's a really upside down way of having things if you're obsessing over something as relatively unimportant as your herbs and forgetting justice and mercy and faithfulness. In Matthew 6, Jesus said, "Therefore do not be anxious, saying, 'What shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear?' For the Gentiles seek after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Now, food and drink and clothes seem like pretty important things. I think if you were a survivalist, those would be fairly high on the list. I think, in this case, that maybe people weren't obsessing about these for survival, but maybe they were obsessing at these from a materialistic viewpoint of the world. So they were thinking about what they're going to eat, thinking about fashion, how they're going to look to other people. So that's how I would imagine as people were obsessing on this very low-level view of a materialistic view of the world. And Jesus is calling them to think on higher things and to seek first the kingdom of God. And all those other things will be taken care of. Lastly, rightly ordered allegiances. Jesus got asked about paying taxes to Caesar, and this was pretty interesting. The Pharisees asked him whether it's right to pay taxes to Caesar. And this was a trap. This was a total setup. Because if he says no, well, then he becomes an enemy of Rome. If he says, sorry, I got that backwards, right? If he says no, that's right. If he says no, he becomes an enemy of Rome. If he says yes, he becomes an enemy of his people. But what Jesus does here is fascinating to me. He totally turns things in a whole different direction. So, do you remember what he does? He asks for a coin. He says, "Give me a coin that's used for the tax." And he asks, whose image is on this? And whose name? And they tell him it's Caesar's. And he says, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's." What does he mean by this? Well, Genesis 1:27 says that God made man in his image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. So Jesus was saying, if Caesar wants these coins, let him have them. If he wants to have some little metal trinkets with his picture on it, let him have them. What God wants is the heart and soul of human beings made in his image. This is a much higher priority to God. Lastly, as far as ordered allegiances, sometimes people will offer you some kind of utopian pursuit. This happened in the 20th century a fair amount of times, where some government or whatever was trying to offer some sort of utopian paradise. The problem with utopias is that they inevitably turn into dystopias. And so it's just like if I was to try to tune, just like when I try to tune up those major thirds, nice and pure, nice and perfect, and I destroyed that octave. And that's what happens when someone's trying to sell you on some kind of utopian idea. They're making some things look really pretty and appealing, but you have to know that there's some really dark problems being created in the process. So if someone tries to sell you a utopian earthly kingdom, you need to reject it and seek first God's kingdom. Okay, so this is not easy. It's not easy with the piano, and it's not easy in life. It takes a lot of wisdom, a lot of understanding, and a lot of focused attention. And sometimes, even when you've got everything kind of balanced out good, things can change. The environment changes. With pianos, if the environment changes, it puts different pressures on these different relationships and throws them all off. And you have to go back through and reassess the relationships and reset them in good order. And we have to do the same kind of things in our lives. So, it's not about achieving some kind of perfect harmony. Perfect harmony is an impossible task. It's not, what it is about pursuing a harmony of rightly ordered and balanced relationships. And this is not a bug in the system, as it seems like it would be. It's not a bug in the system, it's a feature. Because it's not some kind of cold, dry perfection. And then it's also not just chaos, it's not just anything. It's not just whatever. It's actually ordered and relational in the right kind of way. So when we pursue harmony, what we get is not perfect. It's even better. It's beautiful.
Darren, thank you.
Thank you.